At 30 years old, my life was about as exciting as watching paint dry. I was stuck in a cubicle jungle at a giant corporation, the queen of spreadsheets and the master of jargon. Lunch was usually a solo affair at my desk, a sad salad competing with the glow of my computer screen. Dating? Let's just say my track record was about as impressive as a blank sheet of paper. Thighs just didn't seem to register me. I was, well, beige clothes, beige hair, beige personality, or so I thought. One afternoon, my cubicle neighbor, Sarah, rolled her chair over, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Sarah was the complete opposite of me. Bright red lipstick, a laugh that could wake the dead, and a constant stream of gossip. "Diana," she started, her voice a low whisper. "Guess what?" I looked up from my report, brow furrowed. Company gossip wasn't exactly my forte. "What?" "There's a guy who digs you," she announced, a wide grin spreading across her face. My head snapped up so fast I nearly gave myself whiplash. "Digs me? You gotta be kidding." Sarah snorted. "Nope, dead serious. Apparently he sees you at that cute little Italian place we go to on Fridays." My cheeks burned. The cafe was my one indulgence, a chance to escape the beige and sip on overpriced coffee while pretending to be part of some cheesy rom-com. The idea of someone noticing me there, let alone liking me, was unfathomable. "But who?" I stammered. "How does he even know I exist?" Sarah shrugged. "He hasn't exactly made a move yet. Seems kinda shy, to be honest, but trust me, he keeps glancing your way." The next Friday, armed with Sarah's intel, I felt like I was playing a game. Every time the cafe door opened, my heart did a little jump. Finally, just as I was about to give up, a tall guy with messy black hair and a confident swagger walked in. He scanned the room, his gaze met mine, and a smirk played on his lips. He didn't look away this time. He walked straight toward my table. Suddenly, my usual Friday order, a small latte and a stale croissant, seemed ridiculously inadequate. Taking a deep breath, I forced a smile on my face. "Hey," I mumbled, feeling like a teenager on her first date. He stopped in front of me, his smile widening. "Hey there, you're the girl from the corner table, right? I see you here all the time." "Yeah," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Me too." "So," he said, his voice smooth and confident, "I was wondering, maybe you'd like to grab coffee sometime." "Not here." A nervous laugh escaped my lips. "Yeah, sure. That sounds nice." "Great," he beamed. "How about this Saturday? There's this cool record store downtown I've been wanting to check out." "Sure," I agreed, still surprised by my own boldness. "Sounds good." As he walked away, Sarah leaned over, a knowing look on her face. "Told you," she whispered. The record store was a haven for music geeks, with walls lined from floor to ceiling with albums of every genre imaginable. Jacob, however, navigated the maze with ease, picking up obscure jazz records and classic rock LPs with practiced ease. "This Miles Davis album," he said, holding it up for me to see. "Absolute masterpiece. You ever heard it?" I shook my head, feeling a pang of insecurity. "Not really a jazz buff, to be honest." He chuckled, a warm sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "No worries, everyone's got to start somewhere. Maybe I can introduce you to the good stuff." The next few hours flew by in a blur of music trivia, shared laughter, and a surprising realization. We actually had a lot in common. Hidden beneath his confident exterior, Jacob was a total goofball, cracking terrible jokes and quoting cheesy 80s movies with a sincerity that had me snorting into my coffee. As we walked back to my car, the air buzzing with a comfortable silence, I knew this wasn't just another coffee date. There was a spark, a connection that went beyond shared interests or witty banter. A few weeks later, Jacob announced he wanted me to meet his parents. The thought sent a tremor of nervousness through me. Meeting the parents was serious territory. But Jacob, ever the reassuring presence, squeezed my hand. "Don't worry," he whispered. "They'll love you." His parents, Martha and William, lived in an old 2-story house on a quiet suburban street. As soon as I stepped inside, Martha enveloped me in a warm hug. "Diana, Jacob's told us so much about you," she exclaimed, her smile reaching her crinkled eyes. William, a tall man with a salt and pepper beard, shook my hand firmly. "Welcome to the family, Diana. It's a pleasure to finally meet you." The evening flew by in a whirlwind of conversation and laughter. By the end of the night, they weren't just Jacob's parents. They felt like family. As Jacob walked me to my car, a comfortable silence settled between us. "So," he said, his voice teasing, "when do you think we should make this thing official?" That night, I posted a picture of myself in the dress on social media, with a caption that simply read, "Happily ever after begins." Sweet moments and stolen kisses. Weekends were getaways planned by the ever-romantic Jacob, and our evenings were Netflix marathons with takeout containers multiplying like rabbits. Then he dropped a bombshell, moving in with his parents. "They're getting older," he said, concern etched on his face. "They could use an extra hand around the house." Knowing Jacob's closeness with his folks, and genuinely liking Martha and William myself, I didn't put up a fight. They welcomed us with open arms and baked cookies, the house suddenly feeling more lived in with the two of us there. A few weeks in, Sunday dinner took an unexpected turn. The conversation drifted to the state of the house. The roof resembled a patchwork quilt, the paint was peeling faster than a sunburn, and the electrical wiring felt about as safe as a toddler with a lighter. "Don't you sweat it, Dad," Jacob said, digging into a drumstick. "We'll get it all sorted." I shot him a sideways glance. Our joint savings account wasn't exactly overflowing, but the thought of them living in a fixer-upper made me uneasy. Suddenly, Martha dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her face crumpling like a used tissue. "Oh, Jacob, you shouldn't have to worry about that," she sniffled. "This old house has seen better days for sure, but we wouldn't want to be a burden on you lovebirds." Guilt gnawed at me. They were such kind people, living in this dump. Unthinkable. Before I could voice my concerns, Jacob squeezed my hand under the table, a silent message to leave it to him. "Don't worry, Mom," he said, his voice reassuring. "We'll figure something out." Later that night, snuggled under the covers, I brought up the conversation. "Maybe we could chip in for some repairs from our savings," I suggested cautiously. Jacob grinned, his eyes lighting up. "Bingo. Those leaky pipes aren't going to fix themselves, right?" We agreed to split the renovation costs, feeling like responsible adults taking charge. The next few weeks were a blur of contractors, paint swatches, and endless trips to Home Depot. Martha and William showered me with thanks every day, their eyes welling up with appreciation as the house went from DIY to delightful. 6 months had flown by, and Martha and William's house looked like $1,000,000. Shiny appliances gleamed in the kitchen, the roof wasn't leaking anymore, and the whole place felt brand new. They threw a big party to celebrate, a spread fit for a king, roast turkey, mashed potatoes swimming in gravy, the works. Right in the middle of all the backslaps and congratulations, Martha burst into tears, her mascara running like a faucet with a leaky washer. I rushed over, my stomach turning with a bad feeling. "What's wrong, Martha?" I asked, grabbing a napkin to dab at her mascara streaks. "Oh, honey," she sniffled, clutching my hand dramatically. "We're so happy you two love the house, but—" She trailed off, throwing a pointed look at William and Jacob. They both mumbled something about needing some air and stepped outside, leaving me with a confused Martha. "Martha," I pressed gently. She took a deep breath, her eyes welling up again. "We might lose the house, honey. They're going to take it away." My jaw dropped. Lose the house? After all this work? Why? What happened? Martha dabbed at her eyes again, exchanging a quick glance with the doorway where the men had disappeared. "Deb, honey," she whispered. "We took a big loan, a huge one, to fix up the place. And now it's come due." My blood ran cold. A loan? They never mentioned any loan. A million questions swirled in my head, but all I could manage was a week. How much? $230,000, honey, she sighed. "And we have to pay it back in the next 2 months, or—" Her voice trailed off, replaced by another round of sniffles. Sympathy warred with anger inside me. They kept all of this a secret, piled on this massive debt, and now they expected me to fix it. Just looking at Martha's tear-streaked face, though, I couldn't help but soften a little. "I'm so sorry, Martha," I said, my voice tight. "But I don't have that kind of money. There's nothing I can do." Just as I said that, Jacob and William sauntered back in, both looking sheepish. "There might be something you can do, Diana." Jacob started carefully. My eyes narrowed. "Like what, Jacob?" "Well," Jacob continued, avoiding my gaze, "your dad's a pretty successful guy, right?" A knot formed in my stomach. Where was this going? "Yeah," I mumbled, unsure of where this was headed. "Maybe," Jacob suggested, his voice slick with desperation, "maybe you could talk to him about a loan." The pressure was on, and I hated feeling manipulated. But seeing Martha's tearful face, I knew I couldn't just leave them hanging. With a defeated sigh, I mumbled, "Fine, I'll talk to my dad, but I can't promise anything." The next day I called my dad, dreading the conversation. He listened patiently to my story, his silence making the weight unbearable. Finally, he spoke. "All right, Diana," he said, his voice serious. "I'll give you the money, but only with one condition. It needs to be a loan with a signed receipt. That way, if needed, I can ask for the money back." I relayed the message to Jacob, who wasn't thrilled about the receipt part, but eventually agreed. With my dad's money, the debt was settled. Martha and William showered me with thanks, practically declaring me a saint. A part of me felt relieved. The house was saved, the crisis averted, but another part simmered with resentment. Grief clung to me like a suffocating fog. My dad, vibrant one day, was gone the next, taken by a sudden heart attack. Arranging the funeral was a blur of tearful phone calls, paperwork, and forced smiles for well-meaning but awkward condolences. The house felt eerily silent without his booming laugh and playful teasing. One afternoon, after a particularly draining meeting with the funeral home, I entered my in-laws' house earlier than usual. The front door creaked open silently, and I paused, a strange noise snagging my attention. Muted voices drifted from the living room, my in-laws and Jacob. Curiosity gnawed at me, but I hesitated. Eavesdropping felt wrong, yet something about the hushed tones made me stay rooted to the spot. "Can you believe it?" William's voice rasped, laced with a hint of satisfaction I found chilling. 230 grand. We're practically debt-free thanks to her old man. Martha giggled, a sound devoid of warmth. "Stupid girl, that Diana," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She never suspected a thing. Anger, hot and searing, pulsed through me. But then came the next revelation, even more shocking. My stomach lurched as Jacob's voice, laced with disgust, cut through the air. "Can we talk about something else? Living with her is killing me. She's... He trailed off, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. Disgusting. Martha offered a hint of amusement in her voice. "Something like that," she said. "Look," Jacob sighed. "I told you, right? I've had someone else for a while now. A young one. Way hotter than Diana. A young one hotter than me." The words echoed in my mind, each syllable a fresh blow. So not only had they lied and manipulated me, but my husband was cheating on me too. "Patience, Jacob," William interjected, his voice firm. "Those damn receipts. We need them gone before you can move on." "Receipts? What receipts?" Confusion morphed into cold understanding. The loan agreement with my dad. The one with my name on it. The one they desperately didn't want me to have. "Jacob," William said, "I can steal them. Sneak into her dad's house. Get rid of them. Problem solved." Despite the turning in my gut, I knew I couldn't reveal my presence. Not yet. A plan fueled by white-hot rage began to take shape. With a deep breath, I slammed the front door shut, the loud bang echoing through the house. The living room door flew open, Martha's face a mask of faint concern. "Oh, honey, you're back early. How'd the funeral arrangements go?" Grief, real and raw, welled up in my eyes, masking the storm raging inside. "Going well." I choked out, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for asking." Jacob mumbled something about helping me clean up my dad's house. His parents exchanged a sly glance, a glimmer of triumph in their eyes. Little did they know, the game had changed. The funeral for Dad was a blur of choked goodbyes, tearful embraces, and forced small talk. Back at Martha and William's house, the mask started to slip. The faint sympathy, the concerned glances, all vanished, replaced by a coldness that sent shivers down my spine. It started with Jacob. 1 minute, he was standing awkwardly beside me. The next, he leaned in, his voice low and harsh. "Get out," he spat. "Get out of this house and don't come back." My heart hammered in my chest, but I managed to hold his gaze. "What do you mean?" I choked out. He scoffed, a humorless laugh escaping his lips. "Don't play dumb, Diana. We're done. You've served your purpose." "Served my purpose?" I stammered, perfectly playing my role as the stupid wife and daughter-in-law. "Yeah," he sneered. "You and your fancy daddy with his deep pockets. Now we don't need you anymore. Besides, I have someone else now, younger, hotter, everything you're not." The words hit me like a physical blow. Younger, hotter. My stomach churned. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about his blatant disrespect, his cruel disregard for any feelings I might have. Before I could respond, Martha chimed in, her voice dripping with venom. "Honestly, Diana," she said, "we tolerated you for a reason. We needed your money to fix this damn house, and you were so desperate to play house, you fell for it hook, line, and sinker." "What about the house?" I finally managed, my voice tight. "The one I'd practically renovated." Martha let out a harsh laugh. "Our house, dear. You just happened to pay for it." "And speaking of paying," Jacob sneered, "consider those receipts a parting gift. I found them at your dad's place, a little insurance policy you didn't know about." He held up a crumpled piece of paper, a sick sense of triumph twisting his features. Before I could react, he ripped it to shreds, letting the pieces flutter to the floor. But instead of crumbling under their cruelty, a sense of calm washed over me. A slow smile spread across my face, a stark contrast to the shocked expressions on their faces. "What's so funny?" William growled, his booming voice cracking with barely concealed fear. "Funny?" I echoed, my voice laced with amusement. "You really think those were the real receipts?" Their eyes widened, a flicker of doubt replacing their smugness. Leaning forward, I lowered my voice to a dangerous whisper. "Those were just copies," I said. "The originals are safely tucked away with my lawyer." The color drained from Jacob's face. Martha's jaw dropped, and William looked like he might faint. Finally, the tables had turned. "I want my money back," I declared, my voice firm and unwavering. "Every penny of the $230,000 you swindled from me, and I want it by tomorrow, or you'll be seeing me in court." Their pleas for forgiveness fell on deaf ears. I wouldn't give them another chance. Leaving them speechless and scrambling for a solution, I turned on my heel and walked out the front door, slamming it shut with a satisfying bang. The next morning, I marched back to the house I once considered mine. William and his wife sat slumped on the couch, faces edged with a practiced despair. Even Jacob, the weasel, managed a hound-dog expression. "Diana," William greeted me, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "We've been talking, and—" I cut him off with a raised hand. "Save it, William. I know your game." Their practiced sadness faltered, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. Martha dabbed at non-existent tears with a lace handkerchief. "Diana, honey," she cried, "we were wrong. We truly are sorry. Can't we just forget all this and start over?" I scoffed. "Forget the way you called me disgusting? Forget the lies, the manipulation? And you, Jacob," I turned to my ex-husband, my voice laced with ice, "don't even think about pleading your case. A cheater is a cheater, and I have no interest in sharing my life with a lying scoundrel." Silence descended upon the room, thick and suffocating. Their carefully constructed facade crumbled, replaced by raw desperation. An idea struck me, a solution that balanced justice with a touch of sweet satisfaction. "Look," I said, leaning forward. "You're broke. I have the money you stole. So here's the deal." Their eyes widened in a mixture of hope and suspicion. I outlined my plan, my voice firm and unwavering. In exchange for the stolen money, they would sign over the ownership of the house to me. A tense silence followed, broken only by William's ragged breathing. Finally, with a defeated sigh, he nodded. "All right, Diana, we agree." A triumphant smile spread across my face. Within the hour, my lawyer arrived, a shark in a power suit. He drafted a watertight contract, transferring the ownership of the house from William and Martha to me. As they signed the final documents, their faces were a study in misery, the weight of their betrayal heavy in the air. I watched with satisfaction as they loaded their belongings into a beat-up pickup truck, their defeated figures shrinking into the distance. The house, once a symbol of their deceit, now stood before me as a symbol of my victory. A year had passed like a runaway train. The divorce was final, a clean break that left Jacob with nothing but the clothes on his back, and good riddance. Justice, though slow, had arrived. News traveled fast in our small town, and juicy gossip found its way to me courtesy of Sarah and the girls during our usual Friday night wind-down. Apparently, Jacob's young and hot mistress turned out to be nothing more than a bored coworker looking for a harmless flirtation. When things got serious, she hightailed it out of there faster than a scolded cat. As for his parents, they were now huddled in a dingy one-bedroom apartment, a far cry from the spacious house they tried to swindle from me. The initial sting of betrayal had dulled to a simmering ember, replaced by fierce determination. My dad's unfinished business, his community garden project, became my focus. Pouring my energy into nurturing his dream, I found a sense of purpose, a connection to him that transcended his absence. One afternoon, while overseeing a group of enthusiastic volunteers at the garden, a familiar voice grated on my nerves. It was Brenda, the head of the HOA, the same woman who'd constantly nitpicked at my dad's project. "Diana," she drawled, her voice dripping with condescension, "such a noble cause you've taken up. But have you considered the unsightly aspects of a community garden?" I narrowed my eyes, my voice firm. "Unsightly, Brenda? These are fresh vegetables, not a garbage dump. And unlike some people, we actually contribute to the community." Her carefully constructed facade crumbled, replaced by a flash of anger. But before she could retort, a group of children, faces flushed with excitement, ran up to me, their arms overflowing with freshly picked tomatoes. As Brenda huffed away, defeated, I surveyed the scene. The vibrant rows of vegetables, the laughter of children, the camaraderie of the volunteers. My dad would have been proud. A quiet smile touched my lips. They had underestimated me, tried to break me. Instead, they had become a footnote in a story of resilience and growth.